Coffee with Jeff. Coffee with Jeff. Coffee with Jeff. Yeah. Coffee.
Well, hello, how are you? My name is Jeff. I'm so glad you could be with me today. You might notice that my voice is a little weak. You're going to have to deal with it. You know, I didn't have a show last Sunday. I had totally planned on doing a show. And up till Thursday, everything was going fine. And then Thursday night, I went to bed and suddenly I felt miserable. I had what I thought was stomach problems. Now, I've had these before. I probably should have seen a doctor before, but they always go away. So I just assumed it was something bad I ate or something like that. But this one didn't go away. And Friday morning, I woke up, I didn't even sleep, but Friday morning, I still felt miserable. So I finally broke down and went to a doctor. He determined immediately it was my gallbladder. And, he made me schedule a ultrasound test for the following week, and he also took blood. So that was Friday. Saturday morning, I wake up. I did get a little sleep. And I get a call right away saying they examined my blood and I should go to the ER immediately. Don't even wait. So I drive to the ER. And yes, it was my gallbladder, which the doctor described as looking very, very angry. He also said there was a gallstone the size of an avocado pit in me. And the nurses and doctors would later say it was one of the biggest they've ever seen. So not that there's anything to be proud of, but it was very painful. So needless to say, by Saturday night, I no longer had a gallbladder in me, and I'm still recovering. I'm still feeling a bit weak, and for some reason, my voice has been terribly weak. So anyway, so today I'm going to talk about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on December 14th of 1991. It was the independently made American black and white science fiction horror film, The Unearthly, produced and directed by Boris Petroff and starring John Carradine, Myron Healey, Allison Hayes, Marilyn Buferd, and many other wonderful people. This was the episode in which the bots attempt to film a spontaneous and dangerous video for America's Goofiest Home Videos, and then, after the commercial, watch the video. Dr. Forrester creates some actual hard pills to swallow, much to Frank's unhappiness. Joel and the Bots invent celebrity home appliances. At first break, there's a parody of one of the shorts in which Tom and Crow wonder who takes care of all the important functions on the SOL. Later, the Bots talk about the many faces of Tor Johnson. To shake cabin fever, the Bots invent their own game using parts of other games, and they let Joel read the instructions, which goes on and on and on. And we finish with Joel and the Bots reading a letter in the style of the Dead End Kids, and even the Mads get into the act, with Forrester doing his best Theo Gorshi impression. Lured to the House of Monsters, no escape from the Unearthly. Is it really the House of Monsters? I mean, and this is a spoiler, the House of Monsters really doesn't come into play until like the last minute of the film. Literally, the last minute. And as far as no escaping, well, alright, sure, whatever. No escaping for anyone who doesn't know how to walk out of a door or use a telephone. Now, I'm just thrilled that this film wasn't made by Bert I. Gordon or Roger Corman. We've had a lot of those lately. I'm just going to take a moment and enjoy a breath of fresh air. Now, The Unearthly was directed by Boris Petroff. Boris lived from 1894 to 1972. He was a Russian-born film director and producer who specialized in low-budget exploitation films. Now, I know the movie credits the name Brooke L. Peters, but that was just a pseudonym Boris occasionally used. He only did a handful of films, his first in 1936 called Hats Off, but it wasn't until 1952 where he made 6 films in a 9-year period. They include Red Snow from 72, Outcast of the City from 58, and Anatomy of a Psycho from 61. The Unearthly is the only film of his that I've seen, but I am curious about Anatomy of a Psycho. Now here's the thing, I don't know if there's a lot of Boris Petroffs or not. I've read so many different things, and I'm not sure if these are all the same dudes or there's a bunch of guys with the same name. I read that Boris was a one-time bodyguard for Mae West, and Boris was a ballet dancer, and another one who was credited for giving Eddie Cochran the role in The Girl Can't Help It. There was an actor named Boris Petroff who died in 2001, but I know that was a different guy. But more importantly, our Boris Petroff used to work with Ed Wood. Are you surprised? Apparently, Ed wrote his films Anatomy of a Psycho under the name Jerry Lee, and also co-wrote Shotgun Wedding in 1963. That might explain why Tor Johnson is in this film, playing the character of Lobo. The film was written by Jeffrey Dennis, whose real name is John D. F. Black. John lived from 1932 to 2018 and was mostly a TV writer, including both Star Trek the Original Series and Star Trek The Next Generation. Some of his films were co-writing the screenplay for Shaft with Ernest Heidemann, the writer of the book the film is based on, and co-writing The Carrie Treatment, which starred James Coburn. The Unearthly was one of his first screenplays, and maybe that's why he used the name Jeffrey Dennis. Now, if you look at the credits in the film, the story is credited to Jane Mann, and the screenplay by both her and Jeffrey Dennis. But according to Black, I worked on the script for The Unearthly delivering pages, and then I realized it would become a nightmare if I kept doing it this way. So I didn't show up for about 10 days and finished it. I delivered it to Mr. Petroff, who gave it to Jane, his wife, who typed it. I can't type. And then it was time for the picture to be edited and for the credits to be discussed. And it turns out that Jane Mann, who was the one who typed the script last, put her name on it, and Mr. Petroff was not going to pay me. So the shooting schedule for this film was 5 grueling days, and every bit of that is up on the screen. And, it was released by Republic Pictures on a double bill with Burt I. Gordon's The Beginning of the End. You know, Burt's masterpiece about giant killer grasshoppers. And on a personal note, I will say that I think this is the better of the two films, and that's not saying a lot. The only other bit of trivia that I can find was that the production designer was Charles D. Hall. Charles lived from 1888 to 1970 and was most notable for being the acclaimed art director during the golden age of Universal monster movies. He worked on Dracula, Frankenstein, Murder at Rue Morgue, The Invisible Man, The Black Cat, Bride of Frankenstein, and 1 Million Years BC. This was near the end of his career. So why don't we look at the cast? First of all, we have John Carradine, who plays Dr. Charles Conway. John was born Richmond Reed Carradine and lived on this earth from 1906 to 1988. What can I say about this man, really? He had an amazingly long career with 353 credits on IMDb from 1930 to 1989. I think there are many more that aren't listed there. If I had to say something about Carradine, I'd say any acting job for $1. Really, I mean, he was a very good actor, but you know, well, I love John Carradine. Let's just move on. Myron Healey plays Mark Houston. Myron, whose name is misspelled in the credits, lived from 1923 to 2005. He fought in World War II, flying in a B-26 Martin Marauder in the European theater, and continued his military service after the war. He started in films, playing villains and henchmen in low-budget westerns. He kept on working through 1994, both in films and TV. Most of his film work he did in his career was usually uncredited. Allison Hayes plays Grace Thomas. Allison was born Mary Jane Hayes and lived from 1930 to 1977. I love Allison Hayes, and she really should have had a better career. She began with winning Miss District of Columbia in 1945 and then competing in the Miss America pageant. From there, she moved on to local television and then to a Universal contract. The thing about Miss Hayes, and this is very sad, she was prescribed a supplement from a doctor and was taking it for years, but her health slowly declined. It was so bad that she often thought of suicide. When doctors refused to take her complaints seriously, she did her own research and found that the supplement she was taking contained lead. She had been ingesting lead for years, and by then it was too late. Her last few years were horrible. But on the bright side, she did appear in a few classic B films. The Gunslinger in 56, Zombies of Moratau in 57, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman in 58, The Hypnotic Eye in 1960, and The Crawling Hand in 1963. I've been working on her story for a biography for a long time, but I still need some more information. Anyway, Marilyn Buferd plays Dr. Sharon Gilchrist. Marilyn lived from 1925 to 1990 and was the winner of both Miss California and Miss America pageants of 1946 and you can see why she's in this film. She had a very short acting career from 1953 to 1958, the Unearthly being near the end of her career. Her last film was Queen of Outer Space the year after this. A little bit of trivia was that her son was one of the co-founders of South by Southwest. Arthur Batanides plays Denny Green. Arthur lived from 1923 to 2000. He had a long career mainly on TV, but perhaps his biggest claim to fame was being in Police Academies 2, 3, 4, and 6, playing Dr. Kirkland. I can't say I've ever seen a Police Academy film, but I'm sure he's wonderful in all of them. Sally Todd plays Natalie Andrews. Sally was born Sarah Joan Todd and lived from 1934 to 2022. I've talked about Sally in the past. She was a B-movie actress who appeared in such films as The Saga of the Viking Women and Their Voyage to, in 1957, and Frankenstein's Daughter in 1958. And then there was some TV work. She was most notable for being Playboy magazine's Playmate of the Month for February 1957. And lastly, we need to talk about Tor Johnson as Lobo, or as it's listed on IMDb, Lobo 2. He was born Carl Erik Tor Johansson and lived from 1903 to 1971. He was a Swedish professional wrestler who appeared in many B films, and for the record, Tor was already acting in films before he met Ed Wood. Some of his films include Abbott and Costello and the Foreign Legion in 1950, Houdini in 53, Bride of the Monster in 55, Plan 9 from Outer Space in 57, The Beast of Yucca Flats from 1961, and the film Head from 1968. Yes, the Monkees film Head. He also appeared on You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx.
Who are you, crew chef?
Todd Johnson.
You're Todd Johnson? Why? Did he get angry at him?
No, that's the sweetest name. Todd Johnson is the sweetest name.
Oh, Tor Johnson, you mean, huh?
Yes, sir.
I can't say Johnson. Just for the record, what's your gross tonnage?
It's about 387 pounds.
Is that strip for Jim?
That's soaking wet.
So now why don't we talk about the film? What is The Unearthly? We open with the view of a mysterious mansion. Or should I say, a drawing of a mysterious mansion. And then this happens. Whatever that is. After the credits, a car arrives. Two people make their way inside. Dr. Lauren Wright is bringing a patient to Dr. Charles Conway.
I'm pleased to meet you, Miss Thomas. Dr. Wright has told me a great deal about you. Shall we go up to my study?
And Lobo seems interested.
I finally convinced Grace that the best thing for her would be to place herself in your care, and that with your help, her recovery here would be a certainty.
Thank you, Lauren.
We really don't know what Grace's issue is. Quickly, however, we learn that something unscrupulous is going on.
Our agreement was that the patients you brought to me were to have no relatives, no ties whatsoever.
And I tell you that this one has no ties.
Precisely what does that mean?
Grace Thomas committed suicide.
Committed suicide?
Yes. Her bag and coat will be found floating in the bay.
Dr. Conway has been doing experiments on people like this guy, Jethro. I assumed he's looked better. And this wouldn't be an issue unless something unexpected arose.
I'm afraid we're in a bit of difficulty.
What do you mean difficulty? What difficulty?
A relative of his showed up.
A relative?
Harry Jedrow has a sister.
Moments after the two doctors leave, Lobo shows up to, I guess, clean the patient. Okay, how did that actor keep a straight face? Meanwhile, Dr. Conway checks on Grace.
Often I want to cry, just cry. You know, I have no one to turn to.
Now, my dear, from now on that'll all be different. I want you to have absolute confidence in me. Trust me implicitly, and come to me with your problems, no matter what they are.
As they talk, Dr. Sharon walks in, and I detect a little jealousy. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it goes nowhere, but it's there. Outside the house, a man is sneaking around, but is discovered by Lobo.
I found him in the garden.
He says his name is Mark, but Dr. Conway thinks his name is Frank Scott, an escaped killer.
You're Frank Scott, killer and thief.
You got the wrong boy.
Are you sure? I don't think I have.
Dr. Conway blackmails Frank, or Mark, into staying. Otherwise, he'll turn him into police. If this dude is not Frank Scott the murderer, why would he agree to stay? Could there be another reason? We meet two more people that are staying at the house. Stanley Green, a very angry man who's been there 6 weeks, and Natalie Andres, a pretty blonde who likes to read.
You feel fine? Okay. Don't tell me about it. I ain't fine. I ain't fine at all.
That's not a very nice way to talk to a lady.
I don't want to talk to that lady at all. Keep her off my back. And you keep off my back, too. I don't want to talk to nobody.
Danny, lighten up, will ya?
He's having his trouble again, Doctor.
Give him the usual amount of R16.
Ah yes, R16, the cure for all mental breakdowns. Mark arrives in the laboratory soon after, and him and the doctor have a talk. It seems that Dr. Conway has discovered the secret of life. But really, what mad doctor hasn't?
I have the secret of life, of growth, and the cause of death.
That should make you man of the year.
This is not to be taken lightly.
Sorry, Doc.
I have discovered how to add to the 16 existing glands a 17th one, artificially developed, a new gland.
A new gland? What for?
This 17th gland is the secret of youth and eternal life. With it, the aging process can be arrested.
A new gland, huh? Well, I'm suspicious.
I can prolong life for thousands of years, perhaps forever.
Forever's a long time, Doc.
It's possible, Mark. Think of it. To be always exactly as you are now. To see the pageants of life go by you while you remain eternally young and vigorous.
So, Dr. Conway has just met Mark, and he believes Mark is a killer, yet now he's willing to share his secrets with him? Maybe it's one of those situations where he's been waiting for a long time just to be able to tell somebody about his discovery, and now he has this guy to spill his guts to. I don't know. And he wants Mark for a guinea pig.
Eternal life, Mark.
No, not for me, Doc. Like I said before, I'll stay just like I am.
And be burned in the electric chair.
I'd rather do that than be a guinea pig for you.
Mark doesn't want any part of it, but Dr. Conway is blackmailing him. And it's important to our story to see the women in bathing suits.
Be seeing you later, honey. Hi.
Morning.
Mark meets Grace.
How'd you happen to come here?
My doctor brought me. He said I'd get well here.
Get well? You look fine. What's supposed to be wrong with you?
I guess you could call it a nervous breakdown.
And we cut back to Jethro, who is still not doing very well. To make matters worse, his sister, who they mentioned before, is starting to become a problem.
How are you, Lauren?
I'm all right. But Jedro's sister's outside. No, I haven't talked to her yet. But she's insisting to know the whereabouts of her brother.
Make out a death certificate for Harry Jedro. Harry Jedro is dead.
Ah, that solves that. And there seems to be some good news for Natalie.
Natalie, you're almost well enough to leave.
Oh, that's wonderful. When can I go home?
Oh, very soon. Before I let you go, though, there is one final treatment necessary.
As I said, it seems like good news for Natalie. And why not a little music by Dr. Conway? Okay, now, if you're a mad scientist and don't want people to know you're a mad scientist, and you feel in the mood to play a little organ, don't play Toccata and Fugue in D minor. It's just a dead giveaway. People already are starting to wonder about Natalie.
By the way, Danny, have you seen Natalie?
No.
Uh-oh, something's been added to Natalie's dinner.
All right, Lobo. Let me take it. All right, Lobo. You may take it to her now.
So after Natalie eats her drugged dinner, Lobo goes to get her. He puts her on the operating table, and he seems to have a thing for her, but don't worry, this little plot development goes nowhere. And as soon as the Mad Doctor finishes his organ concert, it's time for everybody to go to bed.
Time for go to bed.
Aye, it is late. Shall we retire?
I think I'd go to bed if Lobo told me to do so. So now Dr. Conway can give Natalie her final treatment. An operation the same type of operation he did on Jethro, and it did wonders for that old man.
Did you sterilize my number 23 scalpel?
Yes, Charles.
He's worried about one special scalpel being sterilized, and I don't know why, but that made me laugh.
This is the night, Sharon. I'm certain of it. The final test.
So a quick operation on Natalie, and I'm guessing he's inserting the 17th gland into her, and I'm guessing that everything will go well and the doctor will win the Nobel Prize. And while the doctor operates, Mark begins to worry. Grace, however, isn't believing him.
I don't understand.
I just checked Natalie's room. Her clothes are all there, but she's gone. She's been gone for quite a while. I don't like it, Grace. Conway's a madman. I'm afraid he's done something to her.
How can you say that?
So later that evening, the two doctors go to check on Natalie. Let's see if the operation was a success. Uh-oh, I don't really believe that's what they were going for.
How could this have happened? I took every precaution.
But there's still grace for another try at this 17th gland thing. I mean, I do believe it's why she's there. But now Dr. Sharon's jealousy is getting the best of her, and, well, I don't get any of this. I don't know where this is coming from. And, to be honest, it doesn't matter because this side plot goes nowhere.
Leave that girl alone.
What does that mean?
Grace, leave her alone.
You're sounding like a jealous woman.
That's exactly what I am, Charles. I love you, and I'm not going to have anything come between us.
Now Mark, well, he starts sneaking around because he needs to know what happened to Natalie. He doesn't find her, but he does find Jethro. This is just the kind of proof he needs to convince Grace of what's going on. When he goes to show her Jethro, he's gone. But they do find Natalie, and that's enough.
It's horrible.
Easy now. You've got to take hold of yourself. I'm sorry I had to see her like this, but now maybe you'll believe me.
Now the reason why Jethro was gone was because he was being buried by Lobo. Now Danny, he's trying to escape while Mark is sneaking around. When Lobo spies Danny and goes to check on him, it gives time for Mark to check on the coffin. Jethro is not dead. But Mark puts him back into the coffin, even though he's not dead, just before Lobo comes back, and this will be a bit of confusion to me a bit later on. Danny, having failed to escape, had returned to his room. Mark shows up to talk to him and explain the situation. Eventually, the two make plans to escape a bit later.
If you do what I tell you, you'll get out all right. Look, it's 12:45. You go to bed and pretend you're asleep. At exactly 2 o'clock, you come downstairs. Grace and I will meet you there.
Okay. 2 o'clock. I'll be there.
So why set a time? Why don't you just leave now? That would make sense to me. He knows Tor is busy, and surely Dr. Conway, an old man, can't stop them from leaving, but no, we need a bit more sneaking around. Now look, I can understand experimenting on human beings for the benefit of humankind, even if some of them turn into hideous monstrosities. But peepholes? This invasion of privacy is just wrong. I know it's Allison Hayes, but come on, Doc, have some sense of morals, will you? Now it's time for the great escape, but they waited too long and now it's too late.
Is this the way to repay my hospitality? Lobo, Sharon, thank you.
How will our heroes escape? Well, getting by the simple-minded Lobo seems easy enough, but they better hurry as Grace is on the operating table.
Stay right there, Conway.
You think that gun is really necessary? I was about to give the world the gift of eternal life.
Eternal life? You deny you mutilated innocent human beings. You transformed them into creatures so hideous they'd be better off dead?
I deny nothing. Who are you to question the usefulness of my experiments in relation to the future? I'm holding a new civilization in my hand. A happy world about to be thrown open to a humanity that would die. And not you nor anyone else can stop me.
Save that for the jury.
One has to wonder how many times in films John Carradine, playing a mad scientist, has given a similar speech. But it turns out Mark is a policeman.
Oh, but of course. I must admit you took me in completely. A policeman. I never thought.
You weren't supposed to. Let's go.
Now, I suppose I have no choice.
Okay, a light switch on the floor. Yes, it came in handy, but I want to know exactly why that was installed. So Dr. Conway tries to get away, and Mark calls for backup. Now, Mark's a cop, but why didn't he call for others as soon as he saw Natalie or Jethro being buried? Now, with the house surrounded by policemen, Dr. Conway has no choice but to retreat back into the house. And just when it seems he's going to use a secret escape tunnel, an old friend is waiting for him there.
No. You're dead.
I had you buried!
It's zombie Jethro to the rescue! I've got to admit I didn't see that coming. I thought he was buried out in the backyard, but what do I know? Bobo arrives, but it's a bit too late to save his master. And quickly after that, so do the police. Everyone is captured.
Dr. Gilchrist, what did you do with Miss Thomas?
She's in the lab.
Grace is saved, and everybody can live happily ever after. Except for the monsters in the house. Yes, with a minute and a half left in the movie, we finally have what the movie poster promised.
And what are we going to do with them?
It's a good thing we have institutions that'll take good care of them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the way it works. First of all, I really enjoyed this film, but it does have its problems. I mean, there are so many plot elements that just go nowhere. What about Jethro's sister? Didn't Chekhov say something about if you introduce a sister in the first act, she should come back? Anyway. And Denny Green, why is he so angry? His anger goes nowhere. And in fact, why is he even in the film? His character has nothing to do with anything. They could have wrote him some sort of plot. And then the relationship issues are just crazy. I mean, they're pointless. Dr. Sharon seems to be jealous about Dr. Conway and Grace, though we had no hint that Dr. Sharon had feelings for Dr. Conway or Dr. Conway had feelings for Grace. It just comes out of nowhere, and it seems like the writer got to a point in the script where he was saying, I need some dialogue here, but I don't have anything. How about some pointless relationship issue problems? And he probably just never thought it through. And of course, it turns out that Mark Houston was a policeman, and was he there because he knew something was going on? And why didn't he do more to prevent Natalie's fate? I mean, and he should have called for backup way earlier once he saw Jethro and Natalie. So, anyway, and the title, The Unearthly, does that have anything to do with anything? There is nothing unearthly about any of these people. They all seem pretty much from Earth. Now, the music was by Henry Vars. Henry was born Henryk Warzowski and lived from 1902 to 1977. He was a Polish-American composer, arranger, and conductor. Henry worked on such films as Gog from 1954, Bloodlust from 1961, and House of the Damned from 1963. For today's obscure reference, I have this line.
I'm sorry, I can't think of the ending.
I can't think of anything else.
Now, I'm a huge Marx Brothers fan, so anytime I get a chance to show some Marx Brothers, I'm going to do it.
I can't think of the finish. That's strange, and I can't think of anything else. You know what I think? I think I went past it. Well, if you come around again, jump off.
That's from their wonderful film, Animal Crackers. Now, MST3K showed 61 minutes of the film. Wikipedia says the film clocks in at 73 minutes, but the version I found only had 69 minutes. But now why don't we watch the best 2 minutes of the movie as it was presented on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, starring John Carradine. That was Kung Fu, right?
No. He was the guy in Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, isn't he the guy that does all those Alan Rudolph films?
Oh, that must be it, no.
Hey, your car's barking. Better change your bark plugs. Sky.
Don't say hi. I'll be up to tuck you in later.
These things should fit you.
Oh, and there's plenty of bullet bras in the drawer.
Come with me, I'll show you.
We'll be back with Pons and Fleischman the early years.
Let's see. Now, what we're going to do is take that gray out. I see a more chic look for you. You're just waiting to happen, dear.
So frightened.
Frightened of what, Grace?
Carradine's on my bed.
Hey, John, why the long face, pal?
You're very young.
Bone structure.
Don't worry, Doc. I'll keep my mouth shut.
Hey, Hal is reading your lips.
Now we can start.
Oh, that must be Ellen barking.
Sit down, Natalie, and I'll tell him you're here.
Nutcase Natalie's here.
Well, that could have gone better. I'm really out of practice.
My dinner with Andre had more locations than this film.
We knocking this movie?
We haven't time to think about that now. We've got to figure some way to get you out of this house.
How about the front door?
Hey, Tor, how come you're coughing so bad?
That's a great...
I think he's more confused than we are.
I gotta back up and read the script.
No! Don't do that! I'm in a horror movie and you sneak up on me!
Ah, the key to the plot.
What's that? Why is that mirror at belly button level?
It's a navel gazer.
Let's dance, I'll lead. Dip! Oops. Blame it on the bossa nova.
Hey, there's another movie in here.
Oh, it's the cast for Quest for Fire. They saved the best for last.
Oh, Brian Bosworth and Ben Davidson. Ian Anderson, Aqualung.
All right, I want to thank you for watching. I'm going to get out of here really quick. Doing this show today actually took a bit more out of me than I thought was going to happen. I'm feeling pretty drained at the moment. I hope you understand if the show didn't seem as, polished as normal. You get it, right? Luckily, next week's show is almost already done. That was the one I was planning to show last Sunday. So I don't really have to do another one of these for 2 weeks. Well, have to. I want to do them because, this is my hobby. But hopefully in 2 weeks from now, I'll be feeling a lot better. And I thought I was feeling good today. I really did until I started doing this show. I'm still feeling okay. I just feel weak. So anyway, I thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back. And you take care and you stay healthy, unlike me. Bye-bye.